Syngenta Canada and C&M Seeds present the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com.
We are here with Chuck Penner, founder of Left Field Commodity Research, and we are here to talk about the wheat market, kind of where we're at as far as quality and quantity, and what impact that might have on prices moving forward. So Chuck, tell us a little bit about where we're at. You know, we're hearing a lot about this really high protein levels, which used to, of course, be the good thing. That used to be what we all used to chase, but you know, how's the global wheat crop come off as far as protein goes?
Sure. For the most part, we've seen wheat come off in very dry conditions in a lot of countries. So that includes Canada for the most part. Also the US and Black Sea regions have all come off in fairly dry and hot conditions. So of course what that tends to do is it tends to elevate protein levels. So it's had decent yields and also very good quality for the most part. The US crop came off with very little rain on it, very decent proteins, and good bushel weights as well too. So for the most part, it was a pretty good crop. And so what that's done is essentially caused all of the wheat, give or take, to be pretty good quality. So therefore, buyers don't have to pay up necessarily for the higher quality. They can get it regardless. And so that's affected protein spreads in Canada and in the States and other parts of the world as well too. Even in Europe hasn't been necessarily an issue.
Right. So, I mean, we do tend to, it sort of has been the habit to really pay a lot of attention to protein spreads and that. But when, you know, when everyone's kind of sitting on decent quality and decent protein, you know, what might be some of the other places farmers could turn their attention to as far as trying to extract maybe some extra value out of the market?
Well, you're absolutely right that the focus has been in the past on protein spreads, and those will come back again eventually at some point, but this year isn't one of those years. And so farmers, in some cases, I hear cases of farmers where they're holding out for 2 or 5 cents more a bushel for a protein spread, and meanwhile, then even in the past week, we've had moves in futures of 40 cents a bushel, 20 cents a bushel. So holding out for those kind of better protein spreads when they're doubtful to come around this year anyway is not a good exercise in marketing. And it's similar to what we sometimes see in canola basis levels, because farmers will hold on for a few more dollars in a basis level and complain when they're too wide, but then they'll ignore what's going on in the futures, and those tend to be much larger moves. So focus more on the futures, and in this case less on the protein spreads. And I think there's also some confusion that's just going on with respect to what do we do now with the wheat board monopoly being gone, and what should that do to spreads, and essentially it hasn't done anything to spreads. I think in the past, and this is just a feeling, but I think the wheat board tried to maintain those a little bit wider, and so they would borrow from the lower protein pools or the lower protein and put it into the higher ones. They wouldn't really have a large effect, but I think they would try and show a little bit larger protein spreads, but the market may not have ever been showing those either.
Now, we did hear a lot about the drought in the US. Corn crop is just starting to come off, which for some is incredibly early, which isn't usually a good thing. Production numbers for the US, do you have a sense of if the wheat crop was that hard hit by drought? I mean, you said bushel weights were decent, and
yeah, for the most part, because it's almost all winter wheat grown in the States, those were harvested before the drought really started to cause an issue for on the yield side. Again, it helped on the quality side, and then as you move farther where you have the spring wheats, those tended to get better moisture anyway. So North Dakota, Montana, those areas tended to get better rainfall, and so that wasn't affected as much either.
What about Russia? We always, of course, one of Canada's big competitors. Where is Russia sitting? We hear, are they going to ban exports? Not?
I don't know if they will or they won't. Yeah. In the end, because it's taken so long for them to dither around and make a decision on it, I don't know that it's going to have that much of an effect. And the reason I say that is because chances are exports are going to be limited anyway, and I think the market's starting to feel that way because the Russians are just simply going to run out of wheat. So whether they officially ban it or they just slow down to the point of stopping, I think that's kind of where the market is saying, you know, whatever, the exports are going to slow down, and you already see that even in some of the tenders this week. Egypt tenders, they didn't receive any offers from Russia, and so the market's already starting to, again, factor that in, so it has less potential to really impact the market. The one place where they're starting to see a bit of an influence is Australia, especially Western Australia. They have got a little bit of rain, but for the most part that crop looks like it's going to be limited. But again, that plays into the whole protein thing because it's dry and hot in Australia. So again, chances are they'll have some pretty good protein levels as well, so keep some pressure on those spreads even into the spring and into next summer.
Great. Thanks so much, Chuck.
You're welcome.